It's July 3rd. Ukraine Media Center Confirm continues its operation. My name is Svetlana Chapurenko. Right now we will be talking about the current situation in Kherson and Kherson region. Joining us online is Oleksandr Tolokonnikov, spokesman for the Kherson Regional Military Administration. Mr. Oleksandr, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yesterday, Russians shelled a residential area of Kherson for an umpteenth time. Can you please tell us about the consequences? Yes, yesterday a residential building, an apartment block was shelled. 2 people were wounded who were in their dwelling. A woman of 48 years and a young man of 22 years. They got a shrapnel damage and they were forwarded to the hospital. Also, a pharmacy was shelled in one of the districts. The district of Antonivka is under constant shell, and you can hear it right now. There is a shelling going on Antonivka district. Yesterday, a man of 73 years was heavily wounded near a pharmacy. Also, there was a cafeteria that was also shelled the last night. The village of Milovev was shelled, where a girl of 13 years was injured, fortunately lightly, with the shrapnel. She got her face scratched actually, and also yesterday, as a result of Russian aggression, a driver of a tractor got blown on a landmine. The person was injured but was able to get home on their own and call the ambulance, who arrived to provide the basic medical aid, but the person refused to be hospitalized. This is a kind of people we have living here in Kherson region, people of steel. We have 3 people injured as a result of shelling of Novopetrivka recently. 2 people were delivered to the hospital with medium level wounds. What is the situation in the region after the detonation of Kakhovka Dam? What is the situation with the flooding? What's the level of water for the time being? In the West Bank, the water has already subsided from the towns and villages. In the areas where it does not subside, the volunteers and the state emergency service, in coordination with the military administration, pump the water from there. We also work in the basements of the houses. We pump the water out of there, but the level of the groundwater is still pretty high. This is why the water is sometimes getting back in some of the basements. Also, we clear the streets. That's the first thing, the central streets. We work in the land plots of the people. People clear it from the trash, from debris. The utility services work in the island, about 150 personnel. The vehicles cannot work all over the island because just today we were in the district of Hydropark. The situation is quite difficult there. We had to draw a lot of sand from there, but the shellings are pretty intense there. We've just back from there. The Russians incessantly shelled the area along the bank, so the situation is quite dangerous there. Fortunately, there's a little number of people residing there, but we will do everything to bring order back there. In the central part, the situation is getting better. In all the apartment blocks, the gas supply is reestablished. We have the technical water supply reestablished there, but the Vodokanal, the water supply authority, promises to re-establish the potable water supply. There are still problems with the cable, which was laid underground. It's currently being checked to make sure it operates properly, along with the transformers that were recently flooded. They just require a small change of oil. We hope that the electric power supply will be reestablished there as well. Regarding other villages, we were visiting other communities. The people there got united to help each other. Also, the volunteers, along with the utility service personnel, help people to clear the debris, to clear the trash out of the area. They help cleaning people's houses, their homes, for those who were most severely affected by the flooded. There are modular buildings installed in the area for those who lost their homes as a result of flooding. About 400 of such buildings were destroyed in the West Bank as a result of detonation of Kakhovka Dam. The water supply in those villages where the water level has fallen down in the wells is exercised by trucks. There is a reserve of water 1 month ahead, along with the meal ratios, so we have the situation under control. And regarding the further steps, there's around 57 new wells to be drilled to supply water to Vorontsovska and Milivska communities. Those will be deeper wells in view of the situation with the absence of the Kakhovka water reservoir. Do you observe people who left the region right after the detonation of Kakhovka Dam? So are they coming back now? Yes, there are more people coming back, really, because first those who were evacuated are coming back to their homes to see what's going on, to let the inspection commissions to draw the documentation. People want to get back to their homes to see what the big water has done to their homes, and they have to let the inspection in their homes to see what's going on there. Do we have any preliminary summary of the losses inflicted on the civilians and on the communities? Well, there are preliminary calculations, but we will summarize it after the end of the works. But for what I know, to my best knowledge, the experts say that indirect losses for agriculture will amount to about 2 billion and 10 years. As to the direct losses, it's $950 million. It includes damage of infrastructure, logistic pathways, and damaged residences, along with the administrative facilities. So I think that this amount will grow, but most of the damage fell upon the eastern bank because the flooding was twice bigger there, and the occupiers do nothing there to help the people to pump the water from their homes. But the longer they stay underwater, the more they will be destroyed. So it's very difficult to calculate the losses and damage right now. What is the area of the agricultural lands which was lost due to the flooding? In the East Bank, it's about 200 hectares. It's the land of the 21 farmers who lost their fields. They were sowing wheat there. The majority of the people lost just their land plots near their houses. It's about 1,100 hectares because 1,144 households were flooded along with the land plots, and this is what the people lost, something they were used for living, something they were growing to make a living in their land plots. In the left bank, there are 365 hectares of the irrigated lands that they were irrigated by the water from the Kakhovka water reservoir, and Crimean Channel. I think the 320 hectares were irrigated by the Kakhovka water reservoir. Their losses will be colossal because all those vegetables, all those gardens that people were planting there, they will be without irrigation now. Only 10,000 hectares in the West Bank will be irrigated from the Kakhovka water reservoir. Today there was information that after the water started subsiding, the occupiers started reestablishing their positions. Yeah, I've heard it too. And our armed forces are already working on renewal or resumption of their work on the enemy positions. Thank you, dear colleagues. Do we have any questions on the floor? Good afternoon. Olha Panasenko, Ukrinform. Sir, do you know what is the number of people who applied for compensation? I mean, those affected by the flooding, and what is the epidemiological situation in those territories that were flooded? Thank you. Thank you for the question. In the West Bank, the epidemiological situation has no threats. Well, there is a threat, but there are no infections and bacilli identified in the water. There are residues of iron and other particles, but again, we urge all the people. There is a ban on using the water from the wells, moreover, let alone the water from the river of Dnipro. There is also a ban on sales of fish, but for the time being, all the sampling that epidemiological and environmental services are doing, they detect no infections that could be of threat to life and health of the people. As to the people who have already applied, around 1,200 applications were submitted for compensation from the government and about 1,000 from local council, plus about 300, I think it was the day before yesterday, 300 from regional budget, plus 1,400 applications were submitted for compensation from the international organizations, International Organization for Migration, in the amount of 1,600 hryvnias. Mr. Oleksandr, thank you very much for the comprehensive information. I'm reminding you, we were talking with Oleksandr Tolokonnikov, the head of the press office of Kherson Regional Military Administration. Ukraine Media Center is about to continue its work tomorrow. Stay tuned.